So in this lesson, we'll be studying about trigonometry. Trigonometry basically has four parts: bearings, trigonometry, and further trigonometry. Trigonometry is one of the most important chapters being asked in the Igcse final exam. A lot of questions are being asked from all these three topics. So we'll be dealing with all these three topics one by one. Let's start with the first topic, that is bearing. So yeah, so bearing is always measured, as you know. So in a compass, as the thing goes, this side you have north, then east, then on the left west, and then south. As you have in the compass, the same thing we use in maths as well. So at the top we have north, then south, then east, then west. So remember the two things you need to remember, that the angle has to be always to be measured from north. That means the north side has to be considered as 0 degree and everything has to be measured from the north. Secondly, all the angles should be measured in a clockwise direction. So two things need to be always remembered while solving any bearing problems. The first one is that it has to be always starting from north and taking it as a base point. The second thing is all the angles are measured in a clockwise direction. For example, a bearing of from this to this, if I need to measure, so this being the north, I start measuring from here to here and then find whatever the theta value here is. So always remember two things in bearings: always start from north and go in clockwise direction. We'll see further things in the next example. So this is a given question which says that the bearing of bearing of B from A is 245 degrees. And what is the bearing of A from B? So this is the given question. So the bearing of B from A, remember that from whenever in the question it's given from A, okay, that means at this point, at point A, you need to stand and look at B. That means you need to stand at point A and look at B, and how much ever you turn, that's the bearing. That means that now in this case, it's from A, so I stand at this point A and I'm standing towards the north. Now I need to turn and look towards B. B is standing here, let's suppose. So you turn 245 degrees. That means you turn in a clockwise way, and then now you can see B. So this given angle is called the bearing of B from A. So remember, whenever it's from whatever point given, at that point you need to stand and then start turning until you start looking at the next object. Now they're asking you that what is the bearing of A from B? That means now you need to stand at point B. Now you need to stand at point B. That means you stand here and you need to look at point A. So how much do I turn? Remember that? Remember this, that you always turn towards north and start moving in a clockwise direction. That means you start moving in a clockwise direction, and you move this much and you start looking at A. So basically you need to find this angle theta, right? So bearing of A, so bearing of B from A is 245, that is this. Whereas bearing of A from B would be this angle which we need to find. Let's suppose theta. We will be seeing how that needs to be found out. So what do we do is first we construct a straight line, and as you know that in a straight line the sum of total angle is 180. So this given angle is 180. What is the remaining angle? This would be, as the total was given as 245. So 245 minus 180 will give me 65 degrees. So we got to know that this is 65. Now I'm sure you would have studied in angle properties that if two lines are parallel and a line crossing this angle, so this angle and this angle are equal by alternate interior angles. Okay, you know that this line and this line are parallel. Because of that, and this angle would be equal because of alternate interior angles. Now you know that angle B is 65 degrees. So what is B? B is bearing of A from B. That means you stand at B and look towards A. Okay. Now seeing to the next example. So the next example is starting at point A, travel Travel a distance of 7 kilometers on a bearing of 135 degrees to point B. Travel 12 kilometers on bearing of 250 degrees to point C. Now measure the distance in the bearing of A from C. Now what do I do here? So basically first we need to construct this entire diagram. To start at point A, that means first what we do is we start with taking a point A here. Now travel a distance of 7 kilometers on a bearing of 135 degrees. That means you first construct a north, then go 135 degrees. So I know 90 would be till here. Again, only clockwise direction. And then 135 would be somewhere till here. And you go how much? You go 7 kilometers. And then you reach to a point called as B. Right. From here, travel 12 kilometers on a bearing of 250 degree to point C. That means you again measure north. How much is the angle given? 250 degrees. That means from here you travel 250 degrees. That will be somewhere here. And you know from here you go to 12 kilometers to reach. The major thing is that you need to know how to draw these diagrams. So the foremost thing, we'll just see it once again. To travel a distance of 7 kilometers, you take 7 kilometers on a bearing of 135 degrees. So draw a north, take 135 degrees here. And then again reach to point B. Now travel 12 kilometers on a bearing of 250. That means you take 250 degrees here and get to C. Now the major question is find the distance and bearing of A from C. That means first of all, you need to find this distance. Let's say this distance is X. And the next is find the angle of A from C. So from C, you stand at C and go clockwise. That means you have to find this theta. This angle you need to find. So two things. First of all, this distance, and then that. So the first and foremost thing what you need to do is draw two triangles. Okay, the first triangle would be this triangle, and the second triangle would be this triangle. So from these two, you find out the height of this and the height of this. Once you know that, joining this triangle, you would know this entire height, and you can solve. Try this as a homework, and maybe next class you can see how this question has worked. Very simple problem. We go to the next part. That's trigonometry. The bearing part is a very small topic. Just letting you understand that the north has to be taken as in consideration, and the angles has to be taken as clockwise. The next topic is the trigonometry part. Now, the basic things you need to remember. For now, whatever trigonometric ratios we'll study, that means the tan, sine, cos, all these ratios would be applicable for now to only 90 degree, all the right angle triangles. That means, for example, this triangle is a right angle triangle. This triangle is a right angle triangle. So this entire ratios, all three ratios, tan, sine, cos, what we'll be studying right now would be applicable only on right angle triangles. Okay. For example, let's say this triangle, this given triangle. So let's suppose I'm considering this angle theta. So remember that the side opposite to theta is always said as opposite, and the side next to theta is called as adjacent, and the side opposite to the 90 degree is called the hypotenuse. So these things might change upon which angle do we consider. So don't have this in your mind that this side is always opposite, this side is always adjacent, and this is always hypotenuse. It's not like that. It might change from whatever angle we consider. Now, for example, let's consider this triangle. In this triangle, we have considered this theta. Okay, so we know that the opposite to theta would be our opposite side, and the next to our theta would be our adjacent, and opposite to the 90 degree is our hypotenuse. This is always fixed. The opposite to 90, you have hypotenuse. Opposite to the angle, you have opposite, and next to the angle, you have adjacent. Okay, as you saw here that this is the opposite here, but in this case, this is the opposite. As you see in the first triangle, this is the adjacent. In the second triangle, this is the. These might vary upon which angle you consider, right? From consideration of the angle to angle, it might just vary. Now, so we'll be starting with the first trigonometric ratio that's called a tangent or tan. Remember that tan theta is opposite by adjacent. Okay? So tan theta is basically opposite by adjacent always. So the opposite side upon the adjacent side when we do, we will solve few numericals and you will understand.